I can just go there, yes. So sorry for the delay. Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting the Tourism Policy Unit of DG Enterprise of the European Commission to this conference, despite the fact that we are not the ones managing the budget which finances this project. However, we are always very grateful for the opportunity to present you with the relevant tourism policy actions, and also equally to be informed of the project and its objectives and how it could contribute to European policy development. So let me just start with some facts and figures. So I'm sure that many of you are completely aware of these facts, but just as a reminder so that we actually recognize the importance of tourism, European tourism, in our economies. So as you know, tourism is a relatively resilient sector. Despite we are now in recession, tourism seems to be resisting the economic crisis, and it is a critical sector for Europe's economy. If you look at the figures, it provides 3% of the EU GDP and 3.6% of the total labor force. We are talking about 8 million jobs, and we are only talking about tourism businesses. Now, if we are looking at tourism in a more wider sense, it's connecting sectors such as, for example, construction, catering, transport, etc. Then we are talking about a really serious contribution, up to 20 million jobs and 8.4% of the GDP. Now, I think this is really something that should be recognized, which is clearly showing the importance of tourism to European economies. Now, let's go on and let's see why tourism is so important and why it is such a great asset. First of all, it's got great cultural and historical heritage. We see this the best in Florence. I think it's a really beautiful city. Natural assets, if you look around, you will see beautiful landscapes. The quality of its European tourism services is something that is practically uncomparable to other tourism services getting in third countries. Thank you. Sorry. And not to even mention great connectivity, safety of European tourism, security, stable political background. These are all assets which contribute to the importance of European tourism, which should be capitalized upon. Now let's see the challenges that we are facing at European level. So Europe is still the #1 tourist destination, but there are social and demographic changes going on. People are getting older, they want to travel, they are healthier, wealthier, they need special circumstances which we have to cater on. The economic crisis I have already mentioned. There's climate change going on, many things are changing around, we feel it in the weather, we see that it actually has an impact on the natural environment of tourism destinations. Innovation, ICT, the competitors, we know about many new emerging destinations which are drawing a lot of tourists around. And these destinations often have less demanding social and security on environmental rules. Now, some of the assets that I mentioned earlier, they actually can represent challenges. They can turn into challenges, they can turn into negative effects in tourism, such as, for example, I mentioned great connectivity, accessibility, great facilitated travel. Now, this can actually turn into a challenge, like, for example, an opportunity to those who cater for or enjoy tourism in an irresponsible way. So this is something that we have to find a balance between, and sometimes the assets have to be also seen as challenges. tourism still has great opportunities, and we are asking always for great cooperation at EU, national, regional, and local level, as well as with private sectors to contribute to the development of this sector. And this is all to achieve better opportunities for the European tourism businesses. So we are working for several different objectives, which are listed here: facilitating tourism flows, improving the tourism offer at European level, also attract tourists from third countries, especially the BRIC countries we are focusing on at European tourism policy, and of course to improve the competitiveness of the sector. Now, the extent of the EU competence does not go very far. Still, I have to say that. As you know, the Lisbon Treaty brought new competencies to EU tourism policy, and under the treaty now, the EU can complement the actions of the member states. It can encourage the creation of a favorable environment and promote the experience exchange and good practice exchange for a competitive tourism sector. But, however, as you are already aware, legislative action in the area of rights, safety, and security does not fall under tourism policy. So these activities, rights, safety, security, they all fall under the policy of justice, fundamental rights, and internal affairs policies. So they are not dealt with tourism policy actions. Several existing legislation is already out there. I'm sure you are very aware of these legislative actions under this, which are also focused on under this project, such as, for example, 2011 communication by the European Commission on the child of the right, and the 2011 directive, which is under adoption now, on combating the sexual abuse and sexual exploitation of children and child pornography. I saw that this directive is already referred to in the objectives of this project. Now, I would like to give you a brief overview on some of the most relevant tourism policy actions, which are non-legislative actions, but can directly or indirectly contribute to the objective of this project and to the fight against sexual exploitation of children in travel and tourism. So our actions are grouped under four different main policy objectives. The first is to improve the tourism supply. So, as I mentioned before, to better exploit Europe's main competitive advantages, promoting tourism, especially thematic tourism projects, cultural itineraries, transnational routes, etc. And prioritizing sustainable development, professional skills, and service quality. The second objective is to improve the tourism demand. We are carrying out serious promotional activities, especially promoting sustainable, responsible practices and attitudes by tourism stakeholders. And under this, we have two policy actions which I'm going to go more into detail about: the European Charter for Sustainable and Responsible Tourism and the European Tourism Indicator System. We are also promoting Europe as a unique tourism destination with our promotional actions, Europe Whenever You Are Ready and Destination 2020. The pictures are coming from this promotional campaign in this presentation, and we have a video online as well, which I invite you to visit. It's really beautiful. We are certainly trying to increase tourism flows through different actions, which I'm not going to go into detail about because it's not relevant for this project. So I'm just going to go straight to the Charter for the European Charter for Sustainable and Responsible Tourism. So this is an action which we are carrying out based on our main strategic document, the 2010 European Commission communication, which draws a strategic line for European tourism policy actions. We have been working on this action since 2010 with the help of our Tourism Sustainability Group, the TSG. And this group was composed of experts who helped us practically draw a draft content of the Charter. The Charter is aimed at promoting responsible and sustainable tourism practices, and it's aimed at 4 different target groups: public authorities, destinations, businesses, and tourists themselves. We carried out a public consultation in 2012 on the possible content. Some of you might actually contributed to this public consultation. However, we are still developing the Charter. We are still trying to bring it to a better form that could be published later on as a kind of a promotional material for responsible and sustainable tourism. The Charter is going to contain general principles for sustainable and responsible tourism in the EU. And there are several different subjects of principles it's focusing on, such as economic, social, environmental sustainability, competitiveness, the protection of natural and cultural heritage, the management of resources, stakeholder involvement, monitoring, the safety of holidays, and as well as awareness raising about responsible tourism. The principles of the Charter are quite general. They are not technical, they are not going much into detail. And the reason for this is because it's encompassing, it's targeted to a large scope of audience, starting from tourists up to authorities. So we had to compose them in a way that it would be applicable to all target groups. Now, during the discussions, when we were drafting this Charter, there were various views among the members of the Tourism Sustainability Group. Some of them very strongly supported the inclusion of ethical principles within the Charter itself, while others said that this is not yet the moment to do so. So we came up with a solution. We currently have 12 principles in the draft Charter, which is accompanied by possible lines of action. Now, the possible lines of action are supposed to be helping the implementation of the Charter once it's published. And they contain concrete instructions, let's say. Of course, this is not non-binding content, but they contain guidelines on how to put the Charter into practice once someone wants to adhere to it. Now, one of these guidelines specifically and explicitly refer to the protection of children and minors, and work towards the elimination of all forms of sexual and labor exploitation in travel and tourism. Now, this is a very important step forward because the Charter itself, although it does not contain any specific principle towards the fight against the sexual exploitation of children and the protection of the rights of the children, but its lines of action does refer to it, which means that we are calling for the social responsibility of tourism businesses, of authorities, of destinations, as well as for the tourists to protect this minority group. Now, unfortunately, the final form is not yet decided. We are still working on it, as I said, and we do not know how we are going to publish it. So it's not going to be a legislative document, this is for sure. So it's most probably going to be something like a booklet, a leaflet, some kind of promotional material. It's going to be available towards the end of the year, most probably around the European Tourism Day in November 2013. Now, I would briefly like to mention the European Tourism Indicator System, as it's not directly contributing and not specifically or explicitly contributing to the subject of this project, but has indirect link to it. So this is an indicator-based system which is supposed to be helping destinations to implement responsible and sustainable practices. And of course to monitor them. This is a system we launched in February this year, and it's currently in testing process. It consists of a toolkit of implementation. It consists of a set of core indicators and a set of optional indicators. And it is going to collect data which will help monitoring and improvement of tourism destinations. It has certain economic, social, and environmental benefits. I would not like to go into detail about this because I'm not going to into detail about the indicators themselves either, but I would like to refer to those which are related to responsible tourism. One of the core indicators, so those which are supposed to be implemented by everyone who want to implement or use the European Tourism Indicator System, is that enterprises adopt corporate social responsibility measures. Now, previously I mentioned that corporate social responsibility means also the protection of minorities, the protection of minority groups. There are two optional indicators also which are related to social responsibility. And one of them is the number of registered tourist complaints to police, which is supposed to be contributing to the improvement of the economic value of tourism destinations. And here, this is the importance here is the awareness of tourists about irresponsible practices such as, for example, the exploitation of children in travel and tourism. And the second indicator, also optional, is the residents' views on the impact of tourism and destination's identity. And here, I would like to underline the importance of the knowledge and awareness of society, the local communities, of how to identify irresponsible practices in tourism. Finally, I would like to make a short reference to the European Label for Tourism Quality Schemes. This is a project we are working on currently, and it's going to be the currently only legislative initiative in the area of tourism. And its objective is to bring consistency in the evaluation of tourism services among those who participate in this European label. We are supposed to be providing, we are intending to provide large-scale visibility actions to member states, businesses, towards tourists, which is supposed to be giving an added value also for tourists when they want to identify quality tourism services. Now, among the criteria or the principles of the European Label of Tourism for Tourism Quality Schemes, there are also socially related quality principles which refer to the training of employees, which could be also important that employees are trained and well aware of how to identify responsible practices. Now, I would like to underline that just as any other European project, the principles of the European Tourism Label is not going to go into details, and it's not going to be technical in order to accommodate a wide scope of target groups that is intended to. However, when it's being implemented, it is the role of the tourism enterprises to implement such practices under the quality principle of training of employees that would help them to combat irresponsible tourism practices. Finally, we are, at European level, we are also aiming at streamlining tourism into other tourism policy areas. As I mentioned earlier, safety, security do not fall under European tourism policy. This is why it's very important that we participate in actions taken by other European policy areas. This is just a short list of where we are trying to intervene as European tourism policy in other European policy areas. And as you see, we are in strong contact, in direct contact with DG Home, DG Director General for Home Affairs, who is responsible for child rights in the European Commission. The rest of the list is not directly relevant. Now, we also acknowledge and follow with interest the initiatives undertaken by the Council of Europe, the industry and NGOs, such as, for example, the UNWTO, UNICEF, ECPAT, whom also will be talked about during this conference. And we are certainly encouraging practices to be taken by the industry from our side to fight against the sexual exploitation of children in travel and tourism, especially because violence against children does not recognize geographic borders or social scales. Children represent our future generations. They represent our future social and economic force. Therefore, their protection is everyone's responsibility. It's also an integral part of managing and enjoying tourism in a responsible way. So it is a role of an ethical and responsible tourism business to protect children and to fight against the sexual exploitation of children in travel and tourism. While tourism, if it's responsible, if it's managed and enjoyed in a responsible way, has a positive impact on industrial competitiveness, the quality of life of local people, child sex tourism results in negative social impacts, not only in the local communities, but also in the industry. Moreover, it generates reputational risks, which has direct negative impact on destinations' ability to carry on with tourism operations, and it also negatively impacts the local destination's identity and values. Tourists who are sensitive to socially responsible and sustainable tourism choose destinations and tourism businesses, tourism facilities that share their ethical values. So a responsibly run tourism business gains attractiveness in the eyes of the visitors, of the travelers, and this consequently results in increased economic and social sustainability. By joining sharing responsible practices, including the protection of children from sexual exploitation, the businesses, the tourism businesses, will not only ensure the sustainability of their own business and therefore also the tourism industry, but also will contribute to a better quality of the life of the local communities, will improve the relationship between the industry and the local community, preserve and enhance the values and reputation of the destination, and finally will help to enhance the overall image of Europe as a collection of high-quality, sustainable, and responsible destinations. Now, for general information, I would like to invite you to visit our website or contact us with any future questions. And thank you very much for your attention.
Grazie, allora, dottoressa.
Tranquilla. Thank you, Mrs. Krisztina Boros, for your illustration, not only of the problems regarding this project, but also in the wider scope of the touristic, European touristic industry, providing some information also regarding other aspects, which could be important and combined also to our project. I invited Anna Quartucci, who's the representative of the association, which along with ECPAC, the other association who just got here, takes care of the substantial part of this project. I don't know if you already received your bookmark. This is one of the objectives that this project aims at. So this, contrarily to this morning's conference, is almost like an initial conference for this project. So it's a launching initiative. So this morning we were in a conclusion phase, but this morning we're just at the beginning, so there will be very many stages to follow. Probably the schedule will also be modified with respect to what we had planned. There's a piece of information that's quite peculiar, if you may. We had 2 speakers scheduled representatives of the World Ethical Code for Tourism with offices in Rome, basically the equivalent of the tourism ministry in Italy. But these two representatives from the ministry could not participate because of a bureaucratic issue related to the change of the government. So I think that there will be contributions that we may use for the future and maybe placed on our website. But I now want to introduce this project, and then I'll leave the moderation to Anna Quartucci for the entire day, and then tomorrow I'll have to conclude the conference. So I'll make my introduction